Men Warriors, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate Hartley and I share a weekly video with you every Monday about something related to the menopause. Just to sort of give you a good idea of who I am and where I'm coming from, I am 53 years old. I went through my menopause really young. I think I was through the whole lot by the age of 41, and I have gone completely natural. I haven't had any HRT at all. I have nothing against HRT. And in actual fact, today I'm going to be talking about some of the benefits of possible estrogen therapy if you struggle with UTIs, cystitis. The reason I'm doing this particular video today is I've recently been talking to a lot of women who are either premenopausal, so they're not actually in that perimenopausal sort of volatile range when your hormones are sort of going all over the shop, plus a lot of menopausal and postmenopausal women who are struggling with various urinary tract infections. This is one of those few cases where if I were having issues, I would probably think about getting some estrogen cream or estrogen gel or a ring. I will go over the various options with you in a few moments. Why do you have a greater chance of either having a UTI through your period or indeed after menopause? Just dealing with the period, first of all, it's because your hormones are falling. Estrogen towards the latter end of your cycle drops off. Estrogen has a really anti-inflammatory effect on the body. So as your estrogen levels are falling, remember this is pre-menopause, so you're still having your periods. You might be perimenopausal and still getting periods, but I just want you to understand that it's that fall in estrogen that is causing the perhaps increased risk of inflammation in your body. Plus, we do tend to feel less energetic through the run up to our period, and you might be craving the sweeter foods. Well, sugar is not going to help either. You might be drinking more coffee to help you overcome those feelings of fatigue. Well, coffee is not very good for it either. I will go into all of this in more detail in a bit, but I just really want you to understand the sort of, it takes a holistic approach to deal with this. Yes, of course, you can always go and get antibiotics, but there's a little bit of a cost involved with that as well. If you're still getting your periods, it's likely to be the fact that your estrogen levels are falling as you get closer to the end of your cycle. Estrogen, like I said, has an anti-inflammatory effect. So anything like sex, friction, your immune system tends to struggle a little bit towards ovulation as well. That can also have a negative impact on UTIs. Combine that with more sugar that you might be eating, more caffeine that you might be drinking, and just the fact that you're not feeling your best. All of these do have an increased risk of you developing a UTI around your period. Just to quickly clarify, premenopause is before you start any of your perimenopausal hormone volatility phases. I was much younger than the average age to go through perimenopause, and you'll find that if you are still younger than the average, you'll be told it's not perimenopause, it's just something else. And it has no explanation. And actually, it is just the fact that you're perimenopausal. I used to get terrible hot flushes. The first thing was night sweats for me. I literally would get absolutely drenched. And of course, I was told I was not perimenopausal because I was too young. I speak to so many women like that. So I think it's really important that you become your own best advocate and you think, okay, well, I'm getting the night sweats. I might be feeling a bit more anxious. My mood swings are a bit more volatile. I'm getting hot flushes. I might be getting chills. My bones are starting to ache a bit. It's highly likely you're perimenopausal. Menopause is just one day. It marks the day when you've not had a period for 12 months. And beyond that one day of menopause, you are then postmenopausal. So as we go postmenopausal, our estrogen levels have fallen, as well as our progesterone, testosterone, all of our sex hormones fall because we don't need them anymore. And I've been doing a lot of research around this because UTIs is something that I've struggled with myself. In the past, actually, while I was having periods, I've not had a UTI, touch wood, since I've been menopausal, thank goodness, because the things are bloody horrible. If you are getting recurrent UTIs, and you're getting the dryness down below. I mean, I've read reports of women who couldn't even just sit down because they were so uncomfortable because they were so dry within the vaginal wall. The urethra was inflamed, and that must be awful. So I think if you're in those circumstances, definitely go to your doctor and ask for some either topical estrogen gel, or you might be having HRT. I've also read quite a lot of information about doctors who would necessarily prescribe HRT also saying that if you have HRT, also have the topical estrogen gel, because it can't do you any harm. It does help to strengthen the mucous membranes of the vagina, the urethra. It helps to support that whole area. So if you're getting a lot of dryness, if you're getting painful sex, if you're getting recurrent UTIs, if you're becoming urinary incontinent, and I mean, I don't mean just peeing yourself all the time, but, you know, sneezing, coughing, if you're leaking a lot, it could well be that you need some strengthening around your urethra, which is the tube that you pee out of, in order to give it some sort of structure around there, because there is absolutely no doubt as we go through the menopause, our membranes get thinner, and obviously we're all individual, so I think you really do need to be your own best advocate for that, and to decide whether it's something that you think you should go and get some help for. But the estrogen gels and creams and rings that you can get, the ring stays up there I think for 3 months, so it's, you know, it's a lot cleaner. Creams can be a bit gloopy. Some of the creams also contain alcohol, which can obviously irritate the lining of the vagina, so you wouldn't necessarily want a cream with alcohol in it, but there are lots of different options available to you. So if you are struggling with recurrent UTIs, go that route. It's much, I would say it's a heck of a lot safer to go for an estrogen gel that you can apply topically, or one of the rings that you can have that you can insert every 3 months, rather than going through recurrent bouts of UTIs, which ultimately may actually damage your bladder. And also, you don't want to be on recurrent antibiotics, because the antibiotics that you have are also known to affect the microbiome, so that the healthy bacteria that reside within your urethra. So the lactobacillus is one of the main bacteria, healthy bacteria, that help to keep you healthy. One of the main issues I think with UTIs is E. coli, and lactobacillus is especially effective at helping negate or kill off the E. coli, which might cause that issue with you. Antibiotics do negatively impact your lactobacillus bacteria, and so while they're there to keep your urethra healthy, while the antibiotics help get rid of the bacteria, the bacterial infection, that they're also killing off the healthy bacteria that help you kill off future infections. So it is very much a holistic thing, as is always the case. Now, probiotics, so the healthy bacteria, namely lactobacillus, which is the key one that we're talking about when it comes to maintaining your genitourinary health. You can get that in yogurts, you can get it in quite a lot of dairy products, you can get it in a capsule that you can buy from the health food store. So make sure, if you're struggling with a lot of UTIs, that you are eating a wide range of probiotics, pre and probiotics, because prebiotics feed the probiotics. Prebiotics are things like vegetables, it's that fiber, and inulin. You can buy inulin from your health food shop. So if you absolutely hate vegetables, maybe buy some inulin powder. It's a bit like collagen powder. You can just stick it in your drink or put it on your cereals. You would never ever know you've got inulin in it, but that is a prebiotic that could help you then feed the healthy bacteria to help prevent future UTIs. Obviously, hygiene is a key concern. Do use tampons, just make sure you're keeping it all nice and clean and you're changing them off regularly. The vagina does need to have a certain amount of acidity in it. In fact, one way of really testing this is your vagina should have a pH level of 4.5, 4.5. So you could always get some pH strips and actually test the acidity within your vagina. If it's off 4.5, pH 4.5, then you know that you need to do some correcting. So avoid drinks like coffee. Tea contains caffeine. So if you're getting a lot of UTIs, steer clear of those. Steer clear of the sugars. Those don't do your body any good. They're inflammatory. What you want to be doing is really boosting your immune system, rather than making your immune system work even harder by dealing with things like sugar. So the vagina at 4.5 pH is actually quite acidic, but it's the right kind of acidic. We don't want to be adding inflammatory markers to the body, which are not going to have a beneficial impact, that they're going to have a negative impact on your immune function. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, because that helps to flush things through. After sex, make sure you go for a wee afterwards, because it might just help to, the opening to your urethra is so close to the vagina, which is so close to your anus. It's really important that we're really mindful of good hygiene, and particularly when your immune system might be struggling more, do everything that you can in order to help to reduce any risk of developing an infection. If you use an estrogen gel or a cream, it apparently will not cause any damage to your partner at all. Talking about the acid level of the vagina, pH 4.5. If you read the label, often you'll be told, if you're given like an estrogen cream, just to add a pea-sized amount and rub it into the opening of your into your urethra. However, you can tell, normally you would need much more of that. You'd need to insert it into the vagina. So that's why it's really important for you to understand what the pH level of your vagina is, so that you know whether you need to make it more acidic. And if you do, well, you probably need to use more of that cream. Again, this is, I have no personal experience of this at all. This is just from what I've learned reading other people's experiences of the creams, of the gels, of doctors, menopause doctors talking about this sort of thing. So it might be that if you've got the cream, you're not noticing any difference yet. You may need to use more of it. Also, that there is a time delay. So if you start using the gel or the cream, it apparently takes up to 3 months before the effects can be really noticed. So it takes that amount of time for your tissues to get stronger again, to become more resilient. So a lot of women, apparently they stop using the creams after sort of a couple of weeks, because they are a bit gloopy, but also they're not noticing any difference. You have to stick with it. It does take up to 3 months for you to notice any significant difference. So at least give yourself the chance, the benefit of giving it some, give it some time to make sure that those tissues have strengthened the mucous membranes and form the support around the urethra, the vagina, like you need it to do. If you also have pain, even once you've started using the gels, the creams, whatever it might be, it could be that you need to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist. When we are in pain down below, it's exhausting for a start off. And because I think it's so close to our sex organs, we're very tied to it emotionally as well. Well, that can create a lot of tension in your pelvic floor muscles. So while we want a strong pelvic floor, we don't want a tense pelvic floor. And quite often when you've got recurrent UTIs happening, you become tense. Or if you've got, sex is uncomfortable for you, again, you can become very tense in your pelvic floor muscles. So it might be that you need some physical therapy on your pelvic floor as well. Just advice from a specially qualified pelvic floor physiotherapist to give you some exercises so that you can help to create relaxation in that area, but also strengthen it effectively and remove that tension that you may be holding there. You might be thinking, okay, probiotics, do I rub it in? Do I eat it? What do I do with them? Either, actually. If I had a really sore urethra or sore vagina, I would probably consider using some topically as well. But it is just as good orally, but you just need to make sure you're getting plenty of the lactobacillus probiotic, because that is the one that is really sort of stands out for your urethral health, as it were. So what can you use that isn't involved with hormones? There is a herbal remedy called uva ursi, which I've taken in the past. It can't do you any harm, and it has a healing anti-inflammatory effect on your urethra. It's also antibacterial. So that's something that as soon as you start to notice the signs of cystitis or soreness, you could start to take some uva ursi. Also echinacea. Echinacea just helps to boost our immune system. So if I were you, if you have recurrent UTIs, especially if they're linked to your period, so sort of like every 3-4 weeks you're going to get more sensitive, I would definitely start taking some echinacea for the week, maybe at the beginning of your 3rd week of your cycle, and then it'll help just to boost your immune system while you go through that period while your estrogen levels fall, and until your estrogen levels rise back up again, just to help support your immune system. We all know that cranberry juice is supposed to be the thing when we have cystitis. A lot of cranberry juices have got sugar in them, and sugar is not good for you. It's like I said earlier, it's just going to increase inflammation. But there is a cranberry juice that you can drink which has got no added sugar at all. It is like drinking liquid sandpaper. It actually makes you sweaty. It's just horrid, but it works. And it does work it literally creates that sort of, if you could imagine drinking liquid sandpaper and almost going through your urethra and cleaning all the bacteria off your urethral wall. If you can bear to drink the stuff, I would definitely go for it. It's not cheap, but do not go to like the supermarket. Oh, there's a nice box of cranberry juice. Yummy. That's not actually going to do you any favors at all. You can take cranberry tablets. So if you're going to really struggle with the liquid sandpaper, maybe consider taking the cranberry tablets. Want to try and keep yourself as healthy as possible. Make sure that you're focusing on probiotics. Make sure you're sleeping well enough as well, because lack of sleep is a stressor to the body. If you're sexually active, make sure you have a wee every time after you have sex. If you are postmenopausal and you're finding that your mucous membranes are drying up, I would seriously consider getting an estrogen, topical estrogen treatment, whether that's a ring, whether it's gel, whether it's a cream, whatever suits you best. I would definitely look at doing that, because I don't think you're going to get any better. Again, a lot of the studies that I've read, it's one of those things that doesn't seem to improve at all as you go through and beyond, you know, into your latter years of being postmenopausal. So if you're struggling now, I would definitely get some help with that. Ditch the coffee. Coffee is known as a bladder irritant, so you definitely don't want to be adding anything like that. You could try something like Tea-Chino. That is a completely herbal coffee. When I went caffeine free to reduce my menopause joint pain, actually, I did also add a vitamin E supplement to my diet every day. It worked. Tea-Chino is not cheap, but you don't need an awful lot of it, and it's a really, really lovely coffee substitute. You might think, oh, I'll drink decaf. Decaf's ultra processed coffee. I really wouldn't touch the stuff. Go down the herbal route. You could have chicory instead of coffee. There are lots of different coffee alternatives, so just explore those. Even something like raw cacao. I mean, I drink raw cacao powder in the morning instead of a coffee, just to reduce the amount of caffeine that I drink on a daily basis. That has much lower levels of caffeine in it. You could try matcha tea, something along those lines instead of coffee. So there are lots of different alternatives that you can use. And if you're struggling, I would definitely ditch the coffee. Also, just finally, know that a UTI or cystitis is not an STD. I think a sexually transmitted disease can trigger cystitis, but cystitis or a UTI itself is not a sexually transmitted disease. And there's a lot of people who think it is still, and it's just not. Same with bacterial vaginosis, which is an imbalance of the healthy bacteria around your vagina. That is not an STD. Again, it can be transmitted by sexual behavior, but it is not in and of itself an STD. I think there's a lot of shame and embarrassment around our sex organs. Often it's just an imbalance of the bacteria. So just be really mindful of that. Your doctors are there to support you. There should be no judgment at all. Bacterial vaginosis, how would you know if you've got it? You might be getting a more watery, greyish, whitey discharge. It can be smelly. Again, there's so much shame around that. It is just an imbalance of the bacteria. Like I said earlier, the vagina needs to be pretty acidic. If you're under constant stress, you might be using scented washes or wipes. Just know that the scented things, the perfumes, the wipes, the washes, the sprays, they're having a negative impact on the healthy bacteria that are designed to keep the balance right between the good bacteria and the not so good bacteria. Let nature do what it's supposed to do the best, and just make sure gut health is good. Make sure that you're managing your stress levels effectively. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. Make sure if you're having sex that you pee afterwards. And if there's anything that you're unsure of, go and get help from your doctor. Just finally, on estrogen gel, young babies with labial adhesions are also prescribed estrogen gel. So it would seem that it's a really safe thing to use topically if you are really against HRT as to support you through your postmenopausal year. And also just know that there are tiny little glands either side of your urethra called Skene's glands. They can also become infected and swell and just become painful. They're known as the women's prostate, but they're obviously not a prostate gland. If you're struggling, when they become inflamed, they can actually affect the flow of your urine. By using the estrogen gel or cream or ring, that can also help reduce the inflammation within those glands, the skin glands either side of your urethra. So just be aware of that. It might not be that it's a UTI. It might not be that you've got a very tense pelvic floor. It might not be cystitis, or it might not be a bladder infection, but it might be that you've got swelling and pain in those Skene's glands. Well, estrogen gel will also help with that. As much as I love the natural approach to health and wellness, UTIs are the one thing that I have always failed at miserably, and I've ended up with antibiotics. I just don't seem to shift them very easily. I've tried the cranberry juice, I've tried the uva ursi, I've tried loads and loads of water. The only thing that I wasn't doing back in the day when I used to get them was the pre and probiotics like I have now. And I take a daily supplement of pre and probiotics, and also 8 adaptogen herbs, which help us manage stress more effectively. Now, for somebody who's way postmenopausal, who technically should be at high risk of developing these UTIs and vaginal dryness, etc., whether or not it's these pre and probiotics and adaptogen herbs that I have daily, I don't know. But I've not had a UTI since I really started to focus on my microbiome, my gut health. It could be coincidence, but it could be a telling story, is the fact that if you can really look after your gut health, i.e. your microbiome, the balance of healthy bacteria in your body, that it could have a significant impact on whether you develop a UTI or not. So I thought I'd leave it with that, because I think it's really interesting to hear somebody else's first-hand experience, because I used to have a weakness for UTIs. Not anymore, thank goodness. So maybe that is a big contributory factor. I think we're all different. I think it's really important to understand that we're all entirely different. If you're struggling with recurrent bouts and you're doing everything else that you can, I would definitely look at a topical gel. If you're not, if you really want to avoid that, then I would double down on your gut health. I would make sure, in fact, I'll drop a link below this in the description for a 4-week gut healing system. It cuts out sugar, gluten, dairy. You're not supposed to drink alcohol on it either. It's just for 4 weeks, but it will help you really re-establish the gut bacteria properly, and it'll also help you get rid of some bad habits while really boosting up your energy levels, improving your immune system. It might just be that you just need that in order to have that as your launch pad to then move beyond into life without a UTI. There's also a link below about the adaptogen herbs superfood shake that I drink. That's the one that contains the pre and probiotics and the digestive enzymes. Take a look at that. It's got a load of testimonials with it as well. So I hope that's been helpful for you. I'd be really interested to hear what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. Have you had to go down the antibiotic route? Do you find that working on your own gut health has had a positive impact on the amount of UTIs that you get? Not yet done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for your company. If you've got anything that you'd like me to include in a future episode, just send me a message. You can find me on Instagram at KateHartleyUK, or you can drop your link in the comments below and I'll make sure to stay in touch with you. Again, thanks for your company, and I'll chat with you again soon.